Hey guys, I am so excited to be doing a live show about my new absolute fave show, Scream Queens. Like, oh my gosh, it is so amazing. And I see a lot of you are already in the room. And if you haven't said hello already, then go ahead and say hey so I can give you a shout out. I'm going to say hello to Tony and Marci. I hope I'm saying that right. And Nisi and Reagan. And if you go by a different name than your screen name, then let me know so I know what to call you. So far we've had 3 episodes of Scream Queens because the premiere was actually episodes 1 and 2. And then we had the 3rd episode last night. I hope you guys are all caught up. I just love it. Love, love, love it. I think it is hilarious. I think the writing is excellent. I just think it's one of the best shows that's been out in quite a while. Hi, Reagan. Hi, Rocio. Hey, Laura. Thanks, Reagan. I appreciate that. You made my day. So basically, I know some of you I met during Pretty Little Liars. So this is a mystery like Pretty Little Liars, but that's really the only thing it has in common with that show because it's so different, and I absolutely love that. And if you are new to my videos or to my channel, then hello, because I'm glad to have you here. But what I think is going to be majorly different, I'm not going to talk about Pretty Little Liars too much because this is not what we're here for, but I think that with Ryan Murphy, who writes the show, and Brad Falchuk, because since I've been a fan of a lot of their older shows and shows that are still going on, like American Horror Story, when they say that they're going to do something and reveal someone or reveal something, they will do it. So it's not going to be like a mystery that keeps us hanging on or promises things that aren't going to happen. So I want to know what your thoughts are. Hi, Stephanie, about the episodes that we've seen so far. And then we can start talking about our theories for Red Devil, which I'm very excited to talk about that. Ha ha ha, Marci, that is so funny. If this was Pretty Little Liars, then Coney, who was the mascot for just a minute because he died, would be A. How funny. What I do think, since we're already talking about RD, I'm just shortening it to RD, but we're talking about Red Devil here. I do think that our Red Devil or our Red Devils, because I'm not really convinced and it's just going to be one person, I think they will be the very least likely people. Very least likely. I know we've already met our person or people, but it's not going to be obvious at all. So when they tell you straight up, like, so-and-so really seems like, last night they were like, Chad really seems like Red Devil. The Dean really seems like Red Devil. Chances are that's not going to be who it is, okay? So what do you guys think? What do you think about the show so far? What's really funny to me is that I've had so many like positive comments on my video that I did last week about the first 2 episodes. And then a few people actually made comments, took the time to make comments telling me they hated the show. They thought it was really stupid and they didn't understand it. What you have to understand about this show is that it's very satirical, okay? So it's not really to be taken seriously. Yes, it is a mystery and we're trying to figure something out, but it's also really silly, really over the top, really funny. It's not like your regular, it's not CSI, it's not Law and Order, and it's not How to Get Away with Murder, which is my other fave show. I'm also doing videos on that show. If you have not watched, you should totally catch up. You've only missed 1 season and 1 episode. Tomorrow night's the 2nd one. But that's a very serious show. I love the shout out to How to Get Away with Murder. In last night's episode, I was freaking out. Laura is pretty sure that there's more than one Red Devil. So am I. Now, we saw last night in the hilarious Backstreet Boys / Dickie Dollar Scholars scene that there were 2 people dressed as Red Devil with chainsaws. So they've pretty much given you that information that there's more than one. And you know what? There could be more than 2, to be honest. This show reminds me a lot of the Scream franchise movies. Have you guys ever seen those? Those are some of like my favorite horror movies ever. I love horror movies, so I knew I would love this show. But the Scream movies had similar writing. Everything was very silly, very over the top, and the killers were always the very least obvious people, the people that you really thought you could trust, the people that no one suspected. And that's kind of how I think this will go. Like the very, very, very most trustworthy person or people will end up being Red Devil, in my opinion. So Reagan is asking me if Boone is one of them. Okay, so we know something's up with Boone because his death was fake. Red Devil or a Red Devil, you know, kind of got him out of the morgue. I think it's a little too easy to say that he is Red Devil because I feel like that's super obvious. So I feel like he's definitely in on this, but as far as them giving away, they will not give away that easy who Red Devil is. So don't really think that he is Red Devil, but he's definitely doing something. He's definitely in with somebody. I'm not really sure. I know that will develop a little bit more. He wasn't even on last night's episode. Marcia is asking if I've checked out Scream. I haven't, although I've had tons of people tell me to watch Scream in the comments of my videos. I'm really surprised that I haven't, but I think I didn't check it out because I was super, super, super busy with the last season of Pretty Little Liars when Scream started, possibly, and I was just kind of overwhelmed with that, so I didn't have time to take on a new show. But you're saying you didn't really like it, so I don't know, but I think Scream Queens is genius. Like, I think it's amazing, but you have to go into it knowing that this is not an uber serious show. Everything is living up to stereotypes, like the stereotypical frat guy, the stereotypical sorority girl president. Okay, so it's not trying to be in reality. Nisi says maybe there's some group, like people they turned down from joining the group. Sure, maybe it's girls and guys who were really wanting to be part of these sororities and fraternities, but were turned down. Now, someone I want to point out to you as a possible suspect, and this is also someone mentioned on one of my videos, they thought he was a suspect, is Grace's father, because why would we suspect him? I mean, oh my gosh, he's like the most trustworthy guy. And that's exactly why you would suspect him. I thought his obsession with the movie, The Chainsaw Massacre last night was really, really weird and out of place. Obviously, that tied right into the way that people were dying in last night's episode with the chainsaw. I think there's a good possibility he could be connected. Unless they start pointing fingers and making it really obvious that he could be Red Devil, I think he's a good suspect. I mean, for some reason, as soon as he comes to town, these killings have started. Now he wants to, work. He's working at the school. He's going to be on campus a lot. I think another person to really look at is Gigi, who is kind of his girlfriend. She's obviously, to me, one of the sorority girls from 1995 who we saw in the very beginning of the series. I think they both could definitely be working together. So those are kind of my thoughts right now. Yes, Laura, he got hurt, which makes me think even more that he is a Red Devil, because if Red Devil had the opportunity to slash his arm with a chainsaw, why didn't he go ahead and kill him? You saw one of the Dickie Dollar Scholars lose one arm, then lose another arm. Red Devil wasn't playing games with him. You know, if Red Devil wants to kill you, Red Devil's going to kill you. Therefore, I think that is even a bigger clue to us that Grace's dad is going to be one of the Red Devils. Just my opinion. The two girls tag teaming last night asked Tony, okay, what girls are we talking about? And I just watched the episode again, so I should be really familiar with this. What do you guys think about the bodies disappearing? I have a couple of ideas about that as well. Do you think it's possible that some of these people are not dead? Now, some of them we're pretty sure are dead, but we know that Boone's death, even though it looked really realistic, even though we didn't see him die, but his body there looked realistic, he was alive. And the fact that some of these people are disappearing, I don't really understand, other than maybe some of them are alive. I felt like it was really hilarious when Chanel, I guess number 2, was brought up last night, and someone said, you know what, she's still posting on Instagram, so obviously she's still alive. But it looked just like someone was posing her dead body like by the pool and stuff, and then uploading to her Instagram account, which I thought was really, really clever and just super hilarious. I'm pretty sure that she's dead. But as far as like Mrs. Beans, the housekeeper, I'm not so sure if she is dead, you know? I don't know. I don't really understand at this point why all the bodies get taken away. I'm sure there's a reason for that. We also kind of, well, what I think they're trying to do in this show, every episode they will do more of this. They're trying to lead us to believe pretty much the entire cast is a Red Devil. So what I want you to look at is who they are not leading us to believe is Red Devil. That's why I mentioned Grace's dad. No one's pointed the finger at him. That's why I'm mentioning Gigi, the girlfriend of his, okay? So they tried to set us up to think that Chanel number 3 or 4 or whatever, earmuffs girl, was possibly Red Devil. They gave us a clue about her, that her dad is possibly, or is, Charles Manson, who is a notorious serial killer. which means, hey, maybe she has some of that DNA and she wants to go kill people too. I think that's just to throw us off. Tony says the lesbian, the other girl. Yes, okay. So I was just talking about her, that Chanel number, whoever, the girl with the earmuffs. I think that's to throw us off. You know, the fact that they had that conversation about Charles Manson being her dad. I don't think she's involved. And I also think they're really pushing Hester, who is Leah Michelle's character. She, in the first episode, gave that like speech about being obsessed with the dead and stuff. So I don't know. Now, I do think since it's very early on, we've only had 3 episodes, I could see this show pointing a finger at every single person. I also want you to think about Grace, because Grace would be a perfect candidate. A lot of times in the Scream movies, the very main character, the person who's trying to figure it all out, ends up being the killer. So please look at Grace as a possible suspect, because we have no reason to believe her at this point. Marseille says, for some reason, I feel like they're going to use the bodies to frame Chanel later on in the series, like the Red Devil would pile them up under her floorboards in her room or something. That's a really good idea. I could totally see that happening. I do not think that Chanel number 1, who's Emma Roberts, will end up being the Red Devil, but you know, like I said, anything is possible. But again, I want you to look at people who are very least likely. And something I do not think the show will do is pick a very minor person, like someone who we see once or twice, to be a main killer. They're not Pretty Little Liars. They're not going to do that. It'll be somebody that we know very well. They also try to point the finger at Zayday. Right, Rocio. They said Zayday has a chainsaw under her bed. They're, you know, the policewoman was just sure that Zayday is Red Devil. So let's cancel them out. Now, if the show starts every episode pointing a finger at everyone until every single person has a reason to be Red Devil, then it's going to make it trickier. Honestly, if the show's super smart, they will do that, because then it will make it hard for us to figure out. And I think it will be hard for us to figure out. So Tony thinks that Chanel is the baby from 95. You think Chanel number 1? Okay. Possibly. I have definitely thought that that baby was Grace. Now, you will remember in the first episode that her dad told her, I guess she said, told her mom died when she was 2. And I think the age for Grace is make it like a year or 2 off. Like she wasn't born in time to be the baby. But if her dad is perhaps a Red Devil or in on it, he could have lied a little bit about when she was born in order to not make her realize that she was the bathtub baby. So I feel like it's Grace at this point, although we could be wrong. I definitely think Gigi, the girl who's, I mean, there's a reason why Gigi's dressing in all 90s clothing and she's like a 90s mentality. That, I think, incident where her sorority sister died, like, affected her so much that she's literally trapped in the 90s and can't get out of that mentality and still kind of acts like a sorority girl. I definitely think she was one of the girls we saw in the scene at the very beginning in 1995. So Reagan says, I don't know which channel it is, but the one who gets mad at the lead, Chanel, a lot and is very confrontational to her. Seems like she has some real anger issues. You may be talking about Abigail Breslin, probably. What's confusing on this show is that there's so many Chanels, and it's hard for me to remember, besides Emma's character, who's Chanel number 1, it's hard for me to remember who is Chanel 3, 4, 5. I think Ariana was Chanel number 2, so that person's, you know, she's dead. So I don't know. But yeah, so Abigail Breslin has not been really pointed out, and I have to use their real names sometimes because I know you know them by their real names, because she's Chanel number something. It's just easier to say Abigail Breslin because that's how I know her. But I have not seen her kind of been pointed out as a Red Devil, so we should probably look at her as well as someone who could be Red Devil. She seems very, very jealous of Chanel number 1. But then again, I'd say all the girls are jealous of Chanel number 1. So Marseille says, Gigi mentioned 1995 so many times, the year the baby in the bathtub was born. There are no way these moments are just coincidences. Yes. And I still cannot figure out yet if she will end up being a villain or not, but I would think there would be a very good chance of her being a Red Devil or working with Red Devil. She seems very innocent and sweet and not capable of murder, which makes her perfectly capable to be a villain. That's kind of the way these shows work. And since I'm a huge horror movie fan, I've kind of figured out a formula to a lot of these things. What I would love is for them to surprise me and in a good way and make it very hard for us to figure out as episodes go on, and make it not formulatic like the Scream movies. Because if you've seen Scream movies, if you haven't, you should totally go back and watch them. I think they're worth watching. But after a while, after you've seen like 1 or 2 or 3 Scream movies, you kind of figure out, oh, I kind of know who to look at here, the people who look super innocent. And I think that Emma Roberts was actually in maybe the last Scream movie. Yes, she definitely was. So that's kind of a funny coincidence there. So Reagan says it's funny because we can't rule out a main character like the lead Chanel because there's now 2 devils, right? And there could be more than 2 devils, to be honest. The only way we would be is if we saw the 2 devils attack a main character we suspected. True, unless there's a team of red devils, which they could go with that route. In Scream, the movie, which I really think this show has been patterned after Scream, the movie. If you've seen them, then you would totally get that. But the very first Scream, they had you believing that it was just one killer, and it ended up being 2 people, which would totally threw everyone like for a loop. So if they wanted to be even more sneaky, they would make it a team of killers, or, you know, a group, 4 people, 3 people. So I don't think that at this point there's anyone we can say, oh my gosh, there's no way that person is Red Devil. And I'm also speaking of dead people here, because just because we think they're dead doesn't mean that they are, which I think that's rather lame. And I hope they don't really go down that road of making a dead person a Red Devil, because we've all, or some of us, have watched, I know some of you guys have watched Pretty Little Liars, and they love to bring people back from the dead, and it's really annoying to me. And I think it's kind of not very intelligent writing. I don't really have a problem with the fact that Boone was dead or alive, because they told us all of that in one episode, so I'm fine with that. So Niecy says she may have a psychological problem. We're talking about Gigi here. She has a hate problem with the sorority, and that's why she wants to keep the house open to keep it going. Yes, I definitely think she has some major issues, which could possibly be her whole thing is an act right now as a sweet, innocent, nice girl, and she's really very angry and wants revenge on, you know, even though these sorority girls are not the sorority girls from 1995, she may still see them as those people who whatever did her wrong or whatever. And I think there's a chance that maybe Grace's, or not, the bathtub baby, I keep calling her Grace, there's a chance that that mother of the baby didn't actually die. You might want to think about that. There's really a chance that Gigi is this woman who had the baby. Maybe not, but, you know, maybe she became estranged from her baby, or the baby was given up for adoption or something. You know, the sorority girls thought she was dead, but they really weren't in their right minds and were probably drunk at the time. So they could go that route too. Yes, Niecy says she cannot handle the resurrections. No more Pretty Little Liars games. And I think, you know, and I know I mentioned it several times, I think a lot of you watching or talking to me right now are Pretty Little Liars fans, and we met each other that way. I am thinking to myself that Scream Queens came along at such a wonderful time. And I know they didn't plan this, but honestly, with what happened with Pretty Little Liars and how they basically killed themselves and killed the show and disappointed so many people. And then after that last season that we all watched and we're just for the most part disgusted, here comes this show that is so refreshing and has so much potential. And I feel like it could be even more popular than Pretty Little Liars. Like, I think it has just, you know, the most potential. I think it could be so huge. So Marseille says Gigi was also the one who brought up the idea to the dean to let all the pledges in. Good point. I bet Gigi is the girl who was with the bathtub girl as she died and is out for revenge. I also had that thought that she was the one who was kind of left upstairs with her, and she was freaking out, and she went downstairs and she was like telling her sisters in the sorority, and they were like, they didn't really care. I definitely think that she could be that person as well. So yeah, I mean, I'm totally excited about this show. I think it's great. I think it's nice that it's going to be difficult to figure out who it is, but I have such high hopes for the reveal or reveals at the end of this season. I don't think they're going to let us down. And if you've watched any of Ryan Murphy's shows before, then I don't know if this is the case, but with American Horror Story, it's a different story pretty much every year. So I'm thinking possibly that they will wrap up this entire storyline by the end of this series or season, and then move on to something else for next season, like maybe a different school, different characters. I don't know. Does anyone know about that? Yes, Niecy's like, thank God for Scream Queen, so much better than Pretty Little Liars so far. Totally agree. I tweeted that after the first episode. I was so impressed. Reagan says the security guard is too funny. She's like the voice of us when watching a typical stereotypical horror movie. Exactly. Niecy Nash plays that role very well. Think it's possible she solves the mystery. She was actually onto something saying there could be two devils. Yes, great point that she made to Zayday saying there's two red devils, because Zayday was like, I was not at Best Buy when your friend, was murdered or whatever. I was in the house. Well, of course you were, but there could be someone else working with you, obviously. Marseille says, what about the phrase blood on their hands, meaning that someone has a secret? The girl at the start of the show had blood on her hands. It could totally be Gigi. Very good. Hadn't thought about that. That's excellent. You remember that she did have blood on her hands. That was the very first scene, I believe, her walking downstairs during that party with blood from, I guess, helping her friend have the baby. Very good point. Laura says, I think the people working on Scream Queens know exactly what they want to do with the show, unlike Marlene. Absolutely. And the reason I know this is because I've been a fan of Ryan Murphy's work, and Ryan Murphy and Brad Falchuk. I've been a fan of his for so long. I was a Nip Tuck fan that was on a billion years ago. And I didn't watch that when it was on, but I watched it all later. And it didn't end well, but whatever. The ending was not that great, but it was a really good show for a long time. American Horror Story, Glee. They know exactly what they're doing. They're very smart. They also would never, ever talk to their fans the way that Marlene did. And again, I'm not going to make every live show and every video as a comparison to PLL, but it is worth mentioning. So Tony says, I know I was worried about people still being alive. Glad the writers didn't do that with Rebecca on How to Get Away with Murder. Yes, excellent point. If you watch How to Get Away with Murder, it's written so well. Shonda Rhimes is amazing. They always deliver when they say they're going to do something. Rebecca, one of the core characters, was murdered last season. In the very first episode of season 2, they promised us they would say who killed her, and they did. It's really that easy. Godiva is asking if I'm going to do American Horror Story Hotel. Yes, totally going to do that. So excited. We'll be doing videos, and if there's enough response from you guys like there was for Scream Queens, I will do live shows. And that is how I base how I'm going to do live shows on any show that I cover. If I have a lot of interest in the video, then I will move over to doing a weekly live show for that show. So for right now, I'm just going to be doing live shows every Wednesday at 6 p.m. Eastern for Scream Queens. But if the How to Get Away with Murder stuff picks up, and if American Horror Story is really popular here, then we can start doing live shows for that as well. I think live shows are really good for shows that have something to figure out and shows that we can have theories on. If it's like a comedy or something that's really cut and dry, it's kind of hard to discuss it for a length of time on a live show. Rossio, felt so bad for Coney. Coney was hilarious. As much as I hated the fact that he died, it was quite funny that he got cut in half. Sorry, rip Coney. Reagan's very interested to know the storyline and motivation behind the Red Devils, and there will definitely be a story for that. Definitely. There's going to be a reason. It won't just be like, we just wanted to kill some people. There's going to be motivation. Probably they want to get revenge, something like that. Chad Radwell, who is, it's Chanel #1's boyfriend, but apparently he's every Chanel's boyfriend, totally cracks me up. He is just so stereotypical, the, conceited, arrogant, only out for himself frat guy. I just think that's the best character ever. And I've never seen that actor in anything before. If I have, I don't remember him. I think he's genius. They have made so many hints that he is Red Devil. And guys, I just don't think there's any way he's Red Devil. The only way he could be one of the Red Devils is if he's really very intelligent and his whole stupid frat boy thing is all an act. I could see them doing that, but I don't know. So for this, since we just kind of started Scream Queens, we're just going to do these for 30 minutes for now. Now, when we get closer to figuring out who Red Devil or Red Devils are, we will definitely try to do an hour. So we have more time to figure it out. But right now, we're kind of in the beginning stages. It's hard to theorize too much because we don't have a lot of information, but yet we do have some information. Nisi that says he's just too funny. Just have to laugh. I love this scene with the Backstreet Boys music. They look just like they did on the cover of a CD like back in the 90s or whatever. And it was really funny to me because Brian Littrell, who is the lead singer of Backstreet Boys, Chad, when he was dressed up in the white outfit, he looked like Brian's twin. Like even his face looked like him. It was really funny to me. I love so much how the show is so relevant to what goes on today. And if you listen carefully, you can pick up on so many little things that they throw out there. I love how they talk about Twitter and Instagram, and it's just really relevant and timely. And I think that is awesome. I love what they're doing with that. It's just really connected to, young people, I guess. It's just so, I just love it. I just think it's amazing. I don't know. But like I said, I just think that the writing is so superb. And it was just so funny to me that some people wrote on my videos that the writing was trash. I'm just like, are you kidding me? It's genius to me. But, everyone has different opinions. Reagan says she'll definitely be looking for clues in the next episodes. I'm sure there will be hidden ones. Yes, and I usually watch these at least twice. And it's really packed with clues and little things. It's very, very, very well thought out. Even some of the things that are meant to be funny are actually giving you little hints. And I think it is going to be a show that if you watch the whole season and we find out who is involved and who are the Red Devils or Red Devil, and if you go back, you're going to be like, oh, okay, they gave us these clues. I really think it's all going to make sense. It's all going to add up. You're not going to be like, oh my gosh, this person is Red Devil? What? Like, you might be shocked, but it will be something that will make sense to you, okay? Nisi was saying that she died of laughter. I don't know at which part, maybe the Backstreet Boys thing. I don't know. There's just so many funny things in the show. And I mean, I think the first couple of episodes, the whole pumpkin spice latte skit was so funny to me because that is just such a basic thing to do, to order a pumpkin spice latte. And the fact that she had such a long order, which is just what people do at Starbucks, it cracked me up. I mean, she's so over the top rude, but it's supposed to be over the top. It's supposed to be dramatic. It's not reality. Yes, thank you, Nisi. It was the Backstreet Boys Millennium album. I thought that was so funny. But I feel like if you're over a certain age, you're not going to get some of that. And maybe if you're under a certain age, you won't get some of that. I don't know. But it's really written for a core group of people. So my mom tried to watch it and she didn't think it was very good. So the show. So, that's what I mean. Oh yeah. Rosia was like, when he was like, that's a red car. It's the Red Devil's car. I know. So stupid. So they start vandalizing this car, which obviously was not the Red Devils car because they're just so stupid. And I love the fact their name is the Dickie Dollar Scholars. That cracks me up. I don't even know what that means, but it's so funny. And they're such idiots, all of them. And they're just, I love it so much. Reagan says, I wish they set PLL up to be one of those where you could look back at the one character with a lot of clues. Yes, so do I, Reagan. I actually thought that's what we would be able to do, but sadly, they killed that. But you know what? I think we lost that. We lost all hope in that show, or at least I did. And here comes something else. So when you think things are just the end of the world and things are going bad, something great will come along and you'll be like, PLL who? I don't know. That's how I feel anyway. So we have 3 minutes here, and this has been so fun, honestly, talking to you guys. If you have any more theories or comments, go ahead and tell me before our time is up. But I'm sitting here laughing in my mind because I just think that show is so funny. And I thought the scene where, and I mentioned it in my video last week, but the Ariana death scene where she had to get on Twitter while she was being murdered to tell everyone that she was being murdered. And then she was trying to hit send, but she died. But then she came back to life just in enough time to hit send. Guys, that was so funny to me because how everyone has to put everything they do on social media. So she even had to tell people hey guys, I'm being murdered right now, Nisi says, I'm here this reminds me of PLL, but praying God, please don't let this be PLL again. It's not. And it's different because PLL, and I'm glad it's different. PLL was never funny. It was never over the top on purpose. It's just a different show. I would have loved it without ever have seen PLL. I think there's some similarities, definitely, but Lacey, I am going to still do Pretty Little Liars. Now, what I've thought about for that is I have to see how ridiculous it is when it returns in January. If it's really ridiculous, I will be doing sarcastic videos and making fun of it. If they try to get back on track, then I'll just do my regular videos, but I guess I'll finish it out because I've watched it this long. Rocio, am I going to do vlogs? Yeah, I have planned on it, definitely, but I definitely had planned on it, and I definitely plan to do it. I don't know what I'm saying, but I'm super busy right now with all these shows and everything, so I don't know. One day I'd like to return to it. My life is some things have changed in my life recently, and things didn't go the way that they were supposed to. Long story. But anyway, maybe one day. I would love to get back to it. It was fun, but some things kind of changed, of course, this summer, so I didn't get to them. Okay, Marseille says Grace is super suspicious. In episode 2, where Red Devil left Pete with a sign saying MYOB, he or she could have easily killed him. Okay, yes, and Grace was the only one who knew where Pete was going. Exactly, I think she's super suspicious. Okay, Godiva, I love the fact that Red Devil is possibly Sarah Harvey. Well, that would just be amazing, hilarious. Carrie says, wondering if Boone was one of the Red Devils during the Backstreet Boys scenes. Very possible, because I think maybe Boone doesn't really like Chad or the Dickie Dollar Scholars, so he would probably want to kill them. I think he was acting. I don't think he likes those guys. I think that's really funny. Yes, Shower Harvey. The Ariana death scene was the best, Nisi says. Absolutely my favorite part of the show so far. And Reagan, you're so welcome. It's time for me to go now. This was beyond fun, honestly, one of the most fun times I've had in a live chat, seriously. And I know it just will get better from here. So we'll do this every Wednesday at 6 p.m. Eastern. Also, I'll have a video up tomorrow with my thoughts and a review and predictions of last night's episode. And I'm doing How to Get Away with Murder and Fear the Walking Dead, which is almost over. Plus, I'll be doing American Horror Story. If perhaps you haven't subscribed yet, you totally need to, because you're going to miss out on all the fun if not. So thank you guys so much for joining me tonight, and I will see you probably tomorrow. Well, definitely tomorrow when I do a new video. So bye, guys.